choosing between sapere and conoscere can be kind of tricky, but in today's video I'll do my best to explain to you how this works. Ciao a tutti and welcome back to my channel. My name is Stefano and I am an Italian teacher. In today's video we're going to talk about the differences between sapere and conoscere. These two verbs both translate to know. But how do we know which one to use and when? Well, we'll find out in today's video, but before we start, I'll just ask you a small favor. Leave a like under this video. It's gonna help me a lot. So if you like my content, you would like to support my work here on YouTube, well, just press the like button. It's gonna make a difference. And also, if you don't want to miss any future lesson or video on my channel, don't forget to subscribe and also to turn on the notification bell. Okay, now we are ready to start. Sapere or conoscere? Let's start off with the verb sapere. Now, you probably know the conjugation of sapere, even though it's irregular, but just let's review it real quick. The conjugation of this verb in the present is io so, tu sai, lui, lei sa. Noi sappiamo, voi sapete, loro sanno. This verb is mainly used for two things: to describe someone's ability to do something, and we also use it for knowledge and for knowing a fact. Let's look at a few examples. Io so nuotare. Io so nuotare. In this case, I'm saying that I have the ability of swimming because I have learned how to do it. So, io so nuotare basically means I can swim or I'm able to swim. I know how to swim. So since I'm talking about a skill and ability, I can use the verb sapere to describe this ability. Or for example, I could say, sai suonare uno strumento? Sai suonare uno strumento? Do you know how to? Can you play an instrument? Again, we're talking about a skill, an ability. So the verb sapere is perfect for this. Then the verb sapere is also used when we're talking about knowledge, about knowing a fact. Let me give you a couple of examples. Sai a che ora abbiamo prenotato in pizzeria stasera? Sai a che ora abbiamo prenotato in pizzeria stasera? In this case, I'm just talking about a fact. Do you happen to know, do you know at what time we have made a reservation for pizzeria tonight? So it's just a fact, something that I should know or that you should know. So we're just going to use the verb sapere. Sai quando è nato Dante Alighieri? Sai quando è nato Dante Alighieri? Sapete a che ora è andata via mia sorella? Sapete a che ora è andata via mia sorella? Ho saputo che tu e Matteo vi siete lasciati. Mi dispiace molto. Very often we can also use sapere with che and then another clause. Like in this case, ho saputo che tu e Matteo vi siete lasciati. In this case though, I would not translate ho saputo with I knew, but more of something like I've heard. So of course, since you've heard that, then you learned that fact. So that's why we use the verb sapere. I've heard that you and Matteo broke up. So as you can see, we use the verb sapere for ability and facts. Now, many grammar books actually report that we use the verb sapere when we're talking about what it's called passive knowledge. Passive knowledge means that you know something not because you've studied for it, but just because you know. So for example, if I'm asking you at what time we have made the reservation for a pizzeria, you didn't have to study for it. You just know it. It's a fact. That's why it's called passive knowledge. The verb conoscere instead, it's more about a practical knowledge. That's what they call it. And we'll get there in a second. But before talking about the verb conoscere, let's conjugate it together, even though it's regular. But let's conjugate it in the present anyway. Io conosco, tu conosci, lui, lei conosce, noi conosciamo, voi conoscete, loro conoscono. So now let's talk about the verb conoscere. And one very important meaning of conoscere is to meet someone for the first time. So if you're meeting or if you met someone for the first time, you're always going to use the verb conoscere. For example, posso conoscere I tuoi genitori? Posso conoscere I tuoi genitori? can I meet your parents for the first time, assuming that I haven't met them before? But also, we use the verb conoscere when we're talking about knowing a place, for example, a city or a country, or a person. We never use the verb sapere with a person. We always use the verb conoscere with it. For example, conosci Luca? Conosci Luca? Do you know Luca? Are you acquainted with Luca? And I could also say, conosci Roma? Conosci Roma? Sì, la conosco molto bene perché ci abito da 3 anni. Sì, la conosco molto bene perché ci abito da 3 anni. So in these two sentences, I'm using the verb conoscere because Luca is a person and Roma is a place, a city. So we always use the verb conoscere when we're talking about people and places. Keep this in mind. But as I told you, the verb conoscere is also used when we're talking about a practical knowledge. So a knowledge that we had to study for. For example, conosci bene la grammatica italiana? Conosci bene la grammatica italiana? So Italian grammar is not a fact. It's not something you just know, but something you have to study for. So that's why we're going to use the verb conoscere and say, conosci bene la grammatica italiana? Do you know Italian grammar well? Or for example, mia madre conosce bene l'inglese perché ha vissuto 2 anni in Australia. Mia madre conosce bene l'inglese perché ha vissuto 2 anni in Australia. So here is the same thing. We're talking about knowing a language, and of course it's something you have to study for. So the verb conoscere is recommended in this case. Now, of course, when it comes to sapere as an ability and conoscere as meeting someone for the first time, well, the difference there is pretty obvious. But when it comes to knowing a fact or knowing something in general, well, it can be kind of tricky. The difference is very subtle. So yes, I do understand the passive knowledge and practical knowledge thing, but it doesn't always work. In many cases, both options work. Like for example, when you're saying, do you know that blah blah blah, then you're gonna use sapere 100%. Because that's of course passive knowledge. Like if I want to say, oh, do you know that this thing happened? Sai che blah blah blah, you're never going to say conosci. But if I say something like, conosci le regole del gioco? Conosci le regole del gioco? Sure, I could say conosci le regole del gioco because it might kind of be practical knowledge, because of course if we're talking about the rules of a game, probably you read the instructions and you learned, you studied for it, and then you finally understood how to play that game. But I could also say sai le regole del gioco? Sai le regole del gioco? Because I can see the rules of that specific game as something you've just learned while playing the game, so it's more of a passive knowledge. So again, in some cases, the difference is very subtle. So both sapere and conoscere might work. Alright, I hope that now you have a better understanding of how conoscere and sapere work, and also now I hope that you know which one to choose and when. So if you like this video, don't forget to press the like button, it's gonna help me a lot. And also to subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell so you will be notified every single time I upload a new video. And also don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Teacher Stefano, where I upload stories and photos around Italy. I'm sure you'll love it. Ci vediamo nella prossima lezione. I'll see you in the next lesson. Ciao!